All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real music and real issues and rock stars who are upset. They're upset today, and I'm doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and just like me. So, Michael Stipe from R.E.M., he's boycotting all of the meta platforms for a week. You know, it's look, I remember the days where the whole coexist thing was a real it was a real meme, right? It was on This was before memes, but it was a bumper sticker. You drive down the road, in front of you is a VW bus, and on the back of it, they've got a bumper sticker that says coexist. And it's weird because the T in coexist is like a cross. And it's funny how it's the last letter in coexist. And I think it's actually the last priority in coexist. I'm just tying that together. It sounds like a conspiracy, and maybe it is. And why am I talking about this? And what's your opinion on REM? Do you like them? Yeah, college radio, 1983, 1984. Until I left college, I was running the college radio station. I was making that college radio station great again. That's what I was doing. I did it for 4 years because, I was a management science major and I hated that. So I hung out with all the communications people and I did radio. And then I ended up being the manager of the radio station. So that worked out. It kind of worked out in kind of a weird way. And then I went on to be music director for Cape Cod's #1 radio station for a couple of years. And then my radio career eventually came to an abrupt ending, which I guess was good because the 90s were upon us and I didn't want to do radio in the 90s, at least on rock stations. Anyway, Michael Stipe calls for a social media boycott. And fans say, hey, just leave already. So he's called for a boycott, and it's led to some criticism from some fans. He's asked people to log out of all meta platforms, including Threads, WhatsApp, Messenger, Giphy, MetaQuest, and Ray-Ban Meta. What the heck is Ray-Ban Meta? Is that like for people who buy lots of sunglasses? I don't know. And that was supposed to start yesterday. So the boycott was supposed to start on the 19th and wind down on the 26th. So if you can make it that full week, you'll be doing what Michael Stipe wants you to do. He says, I'll be logged off for the week. So if you want to communicate with Michael Stipe, you're not going to be able to do that. He says, please consider doing the same so corporations like Meta can imagine there might be consequences for helping advance the far right in America and worldwide. The far right. Let me examine this claim of far right. So people who want a secure southern border. I don't know. It sounds like a common sense thing to me. I don't know why that's far right. People who want low energy prices, low interest rates, lower food prices. Yeah, just lower prices across the board. Is that far right? Does that sound far right to you? I'm trying to figure this out. So there are a couple of things there, and people who believe that America is an okay country we don't even have to say a good or a great country. People who think, hey, America, we're okay. Hey, I live here. We're okay. We could be better. We're not the worst. And maybe I take pride in the country. I like it. I like where I live. That sort of thing. Is that evil? Is that right wing? I don't know. These labels don't mean anything anymore. And it's interesting because he's going to get criticized by people who believe that there's something going on in Gaza, which you would think that Michael would be on this issue. You would think his politics would line up with this, but apparently he'd rather do the boycott. A person, though, said in the comments, interesting, but people have businesses on these platforms. The algorithm will punish them later for being off for a week. See, a lot of people who say this stuff have been retired for a long time. I listened to REM when they put out like Radio Free Europe and Fables of the Reconstruction, stuff like Fall on Me. There were a bunch of songs that I latched onto because I liked more guitar driven music at the time, and everybody was listening to, I don't know, like Depeche Mode, and I would prefer stuff like REM. But it's not like I adopted REM's political philosophy. You know, this one's going out to the one I love. I mean, they had a few good songs, right? And yes, I know Michael Stipe is kind of an interesting character, and I'm not going to go into his personal life. Yeah, it's different. All right. So anyway, one person talking about having a business, and then someone else said here, I agree with other comments regarding getting news out, like about what's happening in Gaza. He says, how about a concerted effort to push lots of other stories on MLK Day that have nothing to do with the inauguration? Logging out for a week won't impact my livelihood, but I know so many independent businesses who do rely on these platforms. Yeah, people have tied their livelihoods and their life to Facebook and similar platforms. Cafes that advertise their menus, hours and specials, performers that advertise their gigs and products, advocacy groups that advertise their work, independent retailers and craftspeople. Who's writing this? It sounds like a publicist or something. He's going through a litany. Many have just a social media home on Facebook or Instagram and no other web presence. Okay. So anyway, there needs to be a way for small and independent businesses, sole traders. Who uses the expression sole traders? And artists to advertise and communicate in an affordable way to the public to truly wean everyone away from these sites. Good luck with that. In fact, because of Meta's new policy, I've been thinking, hey, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. Maybe I should go back over there now. Just like Twitter was like a dumpster fire, and I left it, and then I came back when it became X, and I don't mind it, but I don't stay on there all the time. I was listening to a really good podcast, another social media thing, but it's at least I'm listening. It's kind of like a book on tape kind of a thing, right? So I'm listening to this guy, Trent Horn, who's got this really great podcast called the Council of Trent. And he does apologetics, and he's really smart. And anyway, I've been thinking about a lot of things in this area. And he was talking about how he had to pull back from all of these sites. He had to, even though he's got thousands of followers, he noticed it was 4:00 in the afternoon and he hadn't done anything. He hadn't brushed his teeth yet. He hadn't done anything for himself. And it's extremely time consuming. And yes, I'm on YouTube and people are watching my videos. I'd like to try to keep the videos concise, but I tend to talk too much, and hence they get a little longer than they should be. But he's 100% right about how social media just it zaps your energy. A lot of times you'll sit there arguing with somebody on Facebook or X, and you'll look at the time. I was going to say you'll look at your watch, but nobody has a watch anymore. Well, yeah, like an Apple Watch or something like that. And you'll notice, I've got to make dinner. Just what happened? So, yeah, I agree with Michael Stipe about the fact that people can't quit this, because he goes, it appears that some people won't be able to quit because they're too addicted. That we're too addicted. We can't even log off for even 1 week. And it's funny how they didn't have a problem with this up until, this new president or old president comes back to office, and now everybody's upset about it. And because they're going to let people communicate with one another freely, and they're not going to ban people for expressing a viewpoint that contradicts what the government has to say. Um, Another critic of Michael Stipe said, not surprising, but really disappointing, Michael. At the exact moment when people need to use these platforms the most, during the critical transition from one corrupt administration to another, you advise your vast following to refrain. Now, that's a good point. Say you don't like either one of these guys. You didn't like the last guy, you don't like the guy coming forward, right? You should be free to express an opinion. But Stipe says log off. I don't know. It just here's the thing. The cure for bad speech is still more speech. It's not banning the speech. It's more speech. So he goes on to say, you advise your vast following to refrain from expressing themselves on those very platforms, and when TikTok is going dark too. Now, I believe TikTok is back, or it was only gone for a little while. And he says, because of a law that Joe Biden signed, and apparently Trump wants to keep it, so I think TikTok will probably stay. He says, what a great example of the generation gap. He says, your time has passed, my friend. Now, that's kind of cruel and mean, but, you know, it's weird how a lot of the old-time supposed liberal thinkers, people who were totally into free speech in the 1980s, seem to want a lot less speech now, or they want to regulate it or monitor it. And I get it. You know, there's some people get vulgar and they get nasty, and that's not the kind of speech that people should be worried about. What they should be worried about is just expressing an idea. When somebody drops a whole bunch of F-bombs, yeah, delete them out. If they're attacking you personally, delete it. Get rid of it. It's not good for you. Trent was right about this stuff. It's just not good for your soul. He mentioned that on his platform, people were attacking his children and his wife, something I have experience with, probably at a much lower level, coming from so-called religious people too, people who believe in God, and all kinds of fun four-letter words. It's just disappointing. We need to be able to interact with each other again, and I would advise, Michael Stipe does have a point about the addiction problem here, but the only concern he really has is that people who support Donald Trump or support the idea of free speech are going to be very vocal on these platforms. And guess who's that going to help? That's going to help the small businesses that this other guy was referring to, people who are running some kind of a small business who will benefit from the increased traffic on these platforms. So anyway, not surprising about Michael Stipe. I am kind of a fan of R.E.M, but again, if we could just separate the music from the politics and we could just enjoy the music and not worry about the politics, but it's constantly politics, and there's this tension that people so want to escape from. And again, that's what Trent Horn was talking about on his podcast. So I really appreciated the podcast. It's called the Council of Trent. You should check it out. There's some controversial subjects for those of us who are in the world of Christianity on there. It's a lot of debates raging, and people may heavily disagree with his point of view, or they might heavily disagree with the people he's trying to get to. So we're in a constant tension, and one thing that you can do is just relax, go for a walk, read a good book, maybe read like a mystery or something that will get you away from the seriousness of everything. But it's tough because you know what happens? Notifications go off. I got another notification. Did you just drop a video? Yes, I did. I'm getting notifications on my own videos. And then I tell people, please hit the bell for notifications so you know when you're going to get another video. Otherwise, you won't know. And that's what we do. We continue this even though it's probably not good for us to do it this much. And I've thought about this. Maybe a YouTube channel isn't the best thing for me, but I'm continuing on. I had a lot of people who were grateful I started another channel. I still have people finding me saying, "What happened?" Okay, so I've done a couple of videos, so you have to go back first if you subscribe to the channel, and then you could see all the different videos I've posted. I've explained this a couple of different times. And Patreon, if you want to have a conversation about this, it's $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever you want to do. You could send me a message through Buy Me a Coffee. I will respond to you that way. The comments section is heavily regulated, okay? And I've already talked about that 100 times. People are still giving me a lot of grief about the comments. The comments are on, but with limitations and restrictions, right? I'm a dictator. This is my channel. I'm not doing what Meta is doing, although Meta is doing screening and probably still doing some shadow banning and some regulation. I do it because I'm tired of the vitriol and the hatred and things like that, and the nonsensical things that people will say that are personal attacks, and I don't take well to that. I don't do well with that. So with that said, Michael Stipe, right, wrong, indifferent, who cares? Just another topic for a video? Probably all of the above, folks.